sure to tune in to At Home with Christ Ministry with Julie Thomas, broadcasting Monday nights at 8 p.m. live on licmc.net, radio, Facebook, and YouTube.
And welcome to the At Home with Jesus Ministries. I'm your host, Julie Thomas, and today we're going to talk a little about what this show will be about, which are the following things I'd like to mention. First of all, our show will be featuring other guest authors, speakers, or poets. We will also talk about stories from the Bible. We have some light topics and events that we are hosting and coming up with. First of all, on our upcoming segment, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite stories, that is the woman at the well. Because every day at some point in time, whether you know it or not, we are at that spot. We are at that well. We could be at home, we could be in a restaurant, we could be at church, we could be at work, but we are at that point where Jesus comes to us and he tells us that men or women that we have in our life or we had in our life are not our husband or wives. And this is an interesting concept to think about, because imagine that Jesus is saying to you, if you knew what the gift of God was and who he was, you would ask him for a drink of living water. So that's the question that we need to answer today. What would it mean to you if Jesus came to you and said to you that man, that woman, those men, those women in your life that you call your husbands, wives, or boyfriends, those are not your husband, those are not your wives. And what would it mean for you to have a drink of water, a drink of living water? So I want to ask you to think about it and email me your request to juliethomas232@yahoo.com. Now, to begin with, when I read the story, it didn't dawn on me that at some point back then in my life that I was at that point, that every guy that I had been with was not my husband. Because at some point Jesus did come and he did say that, but I wasn't listening. And until it took me until now to realize that he's right. These men in my life that I have been with are not my husbands. And that I had to learn to get a drink, ask for a drink of living water, because it said it in the Bible that Jesus, living water, is all that I need. Jesus will provide everything that I need. And I had to learn that. And I'm here to say today to tell everyone out there, they must learn that. They must learn to ask for a living drink of water. They must learn to realize that Jesus is all you need. Now, the story does come from the book of John, and I encourage pretty much everyone out there to have that drink of water, to reach out for that drink of water. Because if you don't, then you will be thirsty. We will continue to be thirsty. You'll continue to want a drink of a drink of water. You'll continue not to be satisfied. So the important thing is that we have to learn that God has everything that we need. All we have to do is we have to ask him. And now I want to talk for a minute about salvation. I want to ask you, do you know what salvation is? Because in one of our next upcoming chapters, we are going to talk about the helmet of salvation. And we read that it means to know what is true and what is good, and not to fall prey to the lies of the devil. So we really have to get in there and we really have to begin to learn what is the helmet of salvation, what is true, what is not good. Because there are some things that happen in our lives and we think that, oh, this is good. This is good. This is bad. We have to know what is good and what is not bad. And then the story, like we were saying, the woman at the well, she had to learn what was good and what was not bad. She had to wear her helmet of salvation differently. So we need to learn two things. First of all, what is living water? And we will be getting to talk about it on our next show. I also want to let everybody out there know that October the 7th and 8th, we're having our Make Your Way to God conference. October the 7th, we will be at Westminster Church of Detroit, and we will be having Breakfast with God. Everybody is welcome. For ticket information, you can call 313-739-0134. And then October the 8th, we have some great speakers who will be in town. You should come out and check it. They'll be at the Courtyard Marriott in Southfield, Michigan, but you can also dial the same number for information. And then I want everybody out there to just pray for one another and learn to love one another, because prayer is key in this battle. Prayer is powerful in this battle. Prayer is everything in this battle. So don't be afraid to pray for somebody that you don't know. We have to keep praying and we have to keep watching. And we have to do what we need to do. We have to ask for a glass of living water. We have to pray. We have to worship with each other. We have to praise God. We have to thank God. We have to be a Christian. We have to be a good Christian. And I'm telling you, you got to get up. You got to get going. You got to be able to fight this war. You got to keep going, everybody. Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Be sure to tune in to At Home with Christ Ministries with Julie Thomas, broadcasting Monday nights at 8 p.m. live on licmc.net, radio, Facebook, and YouTube. Tune in to At Home with Christ Ministries with Julie Thomas, broadcasting Monday nights at 8 p.m. live on licmc.net, radio, Facebook, and YouTube.
Okay, so I'm originally a Christian book author. I've written a couple of Christian books. Few books. Two of them are Christian. One of them is The Woman Who Answered God's Call. The other one is the Legacy of Christ. So I originally got started in ministry through writing books. And then probably about 4 years ago, I was watching the news and there was like talking about how women were struggling. And I said, really, someone should really do something to help those women. So I started hosting women events like women empowerment events. And that's how I originally got into just something. Said, well, now it's time to, why don't you just try to do some sort of ministry? So, because I had been on other people's podcast shows and radio shows of doing interviews about my books. And one of my friends was like, have you ever thought about just doing your own podcast? And then, for a while, I thought about it. And it was like, no, I was just going back and forth because I was like, no one is going to really want to listen to my podcast. But then, I always tell people, like, I heard God say, okay, you have to learn to use your voice. And it doesn't matter out there who is going to be listening, because that was the assignment that he gave me. So then I set up my podcast, which was originally the Well-Watered Women on Anchor podcast. And I started recording my, inviting guests and just talking on it myself. And then, and I kept watching the numbers, and I was like, wow, these numbers are definitely going up, And so I thought, and I began to feel really good about it. And so that's how I branched off into doing ministry, especially with the At Home with Christ Ministries. It's something that I have been thinking about for a while, but just hadn't really been able to get it up and running. And I'm just now at the beginning tip-off point for that, where I'd like to work with women in the community to empower them and to share God's word with them and to share God's love with them via either like through podcasts or through events or just one-on-one, to just doing one-on-one. And, and also reaching out to the men in the community. So we could say definitely both the men and women, and and then part of it is networking with other ministries. I have some other friends and they had their own ministries in other states, and I'd like to set up partnerships with them to continue God's work. So first of all, the first book is The Women Who Answered God's Call. That is on Amazon. And then the second book is The Legacy of Christ. That's also on Amazon. And then thirdly, the event is the Make Your Way to God conference. The tickets are very low. They're $5. And that's October the 7th and 8th. And you can give me a call at 313-739-0134, or you could reach out to me via Julie Thomas on Facebook Messenger. Also, I will be announcing the guests for an upcoming The Well-Watered Christian podcast normally at the end of the show, which is the next one coming up after this one on the 6th. I'll let people know the name. So the podcast is the Well-Watered Christian podcast, and it's on Anchor FM podcast.
Be sure to tune in to At Home with Christ Ministries with Julie Thomas, broadcasting Monday nights at 8 p.m. live on licmc.net, radio, Facebook, and YouTube.